Ghostlight, Chapter 9. Scene from a half-imagined stage play.
Curtain up on a humble room in a tenement house in Mary Street, Dublin, 1908. Shabby furniture and fittings, probably leftover stock from the junk shop. In a corner, near a sideboard, is a daybed, covered in rags. A dog at its foot, a shabby, bedraggled wolfhound.
A ruined, middle-aged woman uneasily arranging a table.
Her son, in his 20s, in British Army uniform, drinking porter and playing cards with his shadow.
Mother, Georgie, this is me friend, Mr. Singh.
He follows her into the room in a miasma of painful optimism. Right hand outstretched, hat crushed beneath his elbow. In his left hand, a bouquet of wild flowers and a fold of old newspaper. In his right hand, a bottle of wine.
Her mother comes away from fussing at the table and smiles at him fretfully, accepting the offerings, her eyes lividly wild with the particular anxiety of those being visited by perceived superiors. You shouldn't have bothered yourself, Mr. Singh. Those are lovely. You shouldn't have. The lilies might wilt in the wither of her blush.
I am pleased to meet you, Mrs. Allgood. Thank you for inviting me to your home.
I'm sure you're welcome, Mr. Singh. Will you not stand into the fire there? There's a terrible catching cold going the town, so I believe. Georgie, quit your gawking and take Mr. Singh's coat. That's a beautiful coat, Mr. Singh.
Her brother, with kiss, curl and dirty smirk, accepts the hat and heavy cloak of the interloper while never looking away from his eyes.
There we are now. There we are now. That bit of sunshine the last few weeks was the making of us, wasn't it, Mr. Singh? Sure, we didn't know where we were at all.
Most agreeable, yes.
And had you good travel itself out from Kingstown?
Yes, thank you. I bicycled. The evening is pleasant.
But you're not after leaving it unlocked. Your bicycle outside? Oh, you wouldn't leave anything unlocked in this quarter, Mr. Singh. They'd rob the spit of an orphan's mouth and sell it back to him.
Mother, for the love of God! It's in the hole below.
I'm only saying, with the gougers and gutties just be going the street.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph. Mr. Singh doesn't want to be knowing about that.
Mother is duly admonished.
Things settle painfully.
We're all in our Sunday best.
Kingstown is lovely.
Indeed, so it is.
Yes, Kingstown is only lovely. Daddy and myself had our honeymoon out beyond of Kingstown.
I see.
Oh, that was neither today nor yesterday, the dear knows. Lord, I haven't set eyes on Kingstown this donkey's years now. Not since Adam was a boy. God be with the days. Of course, it's healthful to have the sea. I always think that. Even when it's raining, what matter?
Quite.
Yes. Even when it's raining, what matter?
Indeed.
Silence settles like a dust. The fire crackles quietly. From off stage, the muffled ruction of a couple having an argument in a neighbouring flat.
I say Kingstown, but really I mean Glasstool. At Muggavan's boarding house. Do you mind where I mean, Mr. Singh? On the seafront near the bandstand. Oh, a beautiful place now. 2 shillings it was, and the breakfast a farthing. And you'd want to see the breakfast. You wouldn't eat for a fortnight again, you'd be finished. We were there 3 days. It was a good, clean place. Mrs. Muggavan and her husband was Protestants from Moat.
From
Moat, the town, in the county Westmeath.
Ah.
She'd a son in America, I mind her saying now, in Red Hook, Brooklyn, and he married with a German. What this was his name? Bartley, I think. And he married with a German. Imagine being married with a German. And yourself from Glasgow. Did you ever hear of anything queerer in your natural life, Mr. Singh? You'd wonder how they knock it out at all.
Where does Sally after going, Mother? Sure, the supper's nearly cold.
I told her 7, child of God, but your sister won't be said. You know my Sally, Mr. Singh. She speaks terrible highly of you, so she does.
I saw her this morning at the theatre. She will join us later, perhaps?
She's away to the bazaar at Beggar's Bush with some fella.
You'd want to be up early in the morning for the same girl, Mr. Singh. God be with the youth of us, but she'd have you near demented, so she would. And she courting half the town. Isn't it desperate?
Well, we can't be twiddling thumbs on her royal majesty all night. Is Granny above in the bed or where?
As though on cue, the rags on the daybed suddenly disturb themselves, an astonishingly elderly woman beneath them. She awakens. We watch as she rises and expectorates copiously. In a spittoon, shuffles painfully towards the table and takes a generous snort of snuff.
Mammy,
Huh?
this now is Molly's Mr. Singh.
Oh, delirious, I'm sure. Is there e'er a bite to be had in a Christian house? I'd eat the leg of the Lamb of God.
I suppose we might do worse than sit in. Oh, don't be standing on ceremony there, Mr. Singh.
They promptly do as ordered. A pig's head and trimmings are unlidded.
God above, where is that Sally? Who will say grace?
Mother, Mr. Singh is of the other persuasion.
There'll be the grace of the Catholic Church said in this house every night while I'm alive, no matter there's a black Jew man in it.
Georgie leads the prayer in a quiet, strained voice.
The old hatchet enunciating every word with grim intentness, her face like a plate full of mortal sins.
Granny, do you mind? Where's the corkscrew? Mr. Singh is after bringing us a bottle of cherry wine.
It isn't wanted here. Far from wine you are rare.
But the visitor, surely, so as not to show coolness.
Be damned, but I'll be taken as I'm found in my own nest, miss.
We begin to eat.
The silence is unbearable.
A few beats, and the intruder makes an effort.
May I ask, what do you think of the political situation at present, Mrs. Harold?
I don't.
Yes. Well, indeed. Well, that is quite understandable. What with the numerous crises besetting us at present, one can only wonder as to the future. So much emigration and so on. I myself attend meetings of a society that has an outlook of socialism.
What's this is that now again? I do hear the boys talk of it.
There are various interpretations, George. It is a sort of nexus of beliefs, but the crux ray of the matter is simple enough. It is...
Speak plain, for the love of God, or don't be speaking at all. A shut mouth catches no flies.
It means he's up for the working man, Georgie.
Well, hoop, hurrah. Passes us up at that tripe, I'd ate a scabby child.
I was only after saying to Mr. Singh, Mammy, that Daddy and I had our honeymoon beyond at Kingstown. 30 good years ago, if it was a day, Mr. Singh. But he was taken, and we only married 10.
And a merciful release. You deserved less for murder.
And Molly is after telling us a griddle about you, Mr. Singh. Molly and Sally, the both.
A griddle?
It means a great deal, John. It's a Dublin way of talking.
But how quaint. Do you mind if I make a note of it, Mrs. Allgood?
You'll be putting a play, Muddy. You'll be famous entirely.
And these plays of yours, gentlemen, what do they be about?
Oh, I It is hard to explain, Mrs. Harold. Scenes from life, I expect.
Who in the name of the Immaculate Jesus would want to see that in a playhouse? Huh? In a playhouse? Who would want to see life? Do we not get enough of it? Bad enough having to endure it without paying for to see it.
Would there be a laugh in them, Mr. Singh? I do like a laugh in a play.
One hopes so, yes, George. It rather depends on one's audience. It is often a somewhat underestimated factor, the power of the audience, I mean. They can decide, in a way, if the drama is amusing.
Is it yourself does be getting the money from the tickets and that?
Not quite enough of it, I'm sorry to say. But one is motivated by other, as it were, considerations.
Like what?
I suppose the love of beauty. Beauty for its own sake. And then some of us are of the view that beauty can be a servant to the Irish people, I mean, their conception of themselves. One feels they need a higher vision in these difficult times.
Do you know what it is that they need? The fine Irish people. Huh? A good kick in a place wouldn't blind them.
Granny, for the love of Jesus!
Root up their holes, yes. And God send they get another. Oh, yeah. Ah, me dear dark Aaron and the Bowl Fenian men, I'd rain bombs on every current bitch of them for a pack of whores melts. Prognosticating, craw-thumping scruff-hounds. Oh.
Me soul in you, Granny, but you never lost it, so you didn't.
And you never had it to lose. Yeah, idle half-pick. It's a civil wonder to Christ you're able to find your own arse.
And our Molly's a holy terror for the books, Mr. Singh. She's that many of them read, I don't know where to look. If she isn't a scholar, she met them on the road. Isn't that the way, Alana? A queer one for the books.
One can always tell when a young person has known a home in which reading has been encouraged. It is an activity greatly valued by our people, of course.
And who would those be now? According to Trinity College. Huh? Our people. Who is that? Huh? In your own considering. The quality out in Kingstown, is it? Huh?
Well, the people of this country. We are all of us inheritors of a beautiful place, are we not? With its heartaches, yes, and its terrible injustices, but our hopes for greater brotherhood and forgiveness.
Could we not be talking of such serious subjects at supper, John, please?
Well, it's well for them has a country, when the rest of us has debts. Faith now, I'll say that to the landlord, and he knocking for the rent. Hold your hour, my little manning, and forgive us the arrears, for I'm a citizen, not a tenant. Yeah. Mary bless you.
In the name of holy God, must we have politics at the table? There'd not be a minute's luck in such a house.
Please forgive me, Mrs. Olga. The fault in introducing the topic was entirely mine, not Mrs. Harold's. I was forgetting my manners. I intended no offence. I'm afraid I sometimes overlook the wisdom contained in the ancient proverb, Norglach piach cola gon cola ban. The well-known Gaelic saying, never take advice without a woman's guidance.
They don't have Irish, John. I'm after telling you before.
Oh yes. I'm sorry. Please excuse me. I wasn't... I wasn't thinking. A coughing fit besets him, becoming increasingly more violent.
No one else moves.
Fade to blackout.